Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Health Tech Edge. My name's Mike Moore. I'm your host, and joining me as always is our panelist, Raheel Retiwalla, Chief Strategy Officer at Productive Edge. And this week, our special guest is Murali Gandhirajan, Global Healthcare and Life Sciences CTO at Snowflake. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be in the session, and thanks for having me.
Great to have you, Murali. Good to see you, Mike.
Good to see you as well. And today we're going to talk about how AI agents are changing healthcare. We're doing a season of AI agent themed episodes. And the discussion today, of course, with Murali with us, we want to talk specifically about Snowflake and how you're helping to make that possible. Snowflake, obviously well-established vendor in the industry, but really doing some unique and interesting things specifically for healthcare organizations. And I think that's what we want to dive into. So Murali, let me start with you and just ask, you spend a lot of your day talking to healthcare organizations of different types and business models. What do you see as some of the trends or issues that are pushing healthcare organizations towards AI agents? What are you hearing from them and what are they telling you about those pressures?
It's a great question to kick off this conversation, Mike, because like many of us, I've been in healthcare for close to about 20 plus years. And I've never seen this industry excited about a technology as they are for the AI and the opportunity that AI brings in. And I believe it starts with the understanding of what this technology can do. But more importantly, going back to the fundamentals of healthcare is super focused in driving operational efficiency, whether we are looking at reducing cost of care or driving operational efficiency in claim processing versus hospital operations. The industry is very focused on driving operational efficiency. And I think what is exciting with a technology like this is how can we then take this technology and apply it so it drives that operational efficiency, delivers better clinical health outcomes, and so on and so forth. I think that's why we see this trend driving the demand for AI and the AI agents and the opportunity that this technology presents.
I do think that it is like we've all been in the industry for many decades combined on this call, and it is like nothing we've seen before, right? And the potential impact and the acceleration speed of it, I think, and the transformation is really unprecedented. So, Raheel, from your point of view, AI is obviously not new, but AI agents and what's happened over the last couple of years really are transformative and what the promise is for healthcare. What's your take on this in terms of some of the trends that you are hearing from customers and what's pushing them to move forward in this way?
I'll echo what Murali said earlier. One of the things that we started doing at Productive Edge, as you know, Mike, is really started looking at the administrative burden and the impact of that on the healthcare ecosystem. And it's large. And before even AI agents and really the technology stack that started enabling them became what it is and is starting to become today, we've been working on identifying how to think about workflows and how to think about disrupting those workflows using AI. Because when you look at traditional AI, it's always been about generating insights. When you think about risk stratification, those insights about segments of population that may be at risk at something. What you don't have is how to act on that insight. And where AI is headed now is the ability to actually operationalize that insight. And that's where AI agents are really going to play a role. Operational efficiency clearly is one of them, but I look at it as an opportunity to think about AI embedded within workflows and not outside of them. Right? And that's the exciting part where we're headed.
So let's actually take that, Murali, into maybe some use cases. So Snowflake, well known as a data platform, right? And driving customers to put all your data in Snowflake, right? That's kind of the one place and break down the silos and have it together. Now that it's there, especially for healthcare and life science companies, there's tremendous opportunity. So what are some of but it's easy to be overwhelmed, I guess, at the same time, right? Because there's infinite use cases, but there are clearly some big wins. So what are you seeing or what are you encouraging customers to look at as maybe the first couple of key wins or opportunities as they start to pursue AI agents and building that on Snowflake?
So if you want to understand what use cases we can solve for, we have done just the use case in its entirety, right? So from a context of use cases, I would put this into three different buckets. AI can assist, AI can augment, or AI can accelerate, right? And agents play a key role across all these three different categories I spoke about. Assisting from a context of AI agents playing the role of co-pilot or more. AI agents helping to reduce documentation burden. And Raheel, you, I think, were alluding to that before, right? how do we have AI agents do a task that would potentially eliminate a manual task performed by healthcare participants or clinicians, nurse practitioners, and so on and so forth, thereby making them more productive, right? The rise of ambient listening technologies in the industry is a clear signal to that. That's one of the most widely adopted AI use cases in healthcare use cases from an AI perspective. That is because there is a good return on investment, there is productivity gain, and so on and so forth. This is AI agent assisting, right? AI agents can then augment. For example, when we are talking about knowledge workers, specifically from a context of clinicians and nurse practitioners, this is about AI agents giving nudges, right? In my opinion, AI, in this case, AI agents is a co-pilot at its best. The reason why I say that is because it's the humans who are actually making the decision, but AI is playing the role of surfacing up important insights from the data, which then being taken into account by the clinicians or the humans in loop to then take the decision, right? This is AI in an augmentation capacity. And we are seeing the rise of AI being used in pathology workflows, right? It's not AI just writing a report, everything, and then just sending it out without having anybody in loop. It's about AI being applied to those images, understanding and identifying information and nudges and providing them to the pathologist so that the pathologist can then use it to draft up the diagnosis and the pathology report for a given patient. Thereby, it is a productivity play, it is a knowledge in augmenter play. And then the third opportunity is AI agents can accelerate from a context of how do we accelerate research, for example, right? What to me the most interesting part is what used to take 20 to 30 minutes for a researchers to go through, say, an article in a PubMed is just now 2 minutes, because now we have AI agents that can not only help you look up the relevant articles, but it will also summarize and give you the information. And you can perhaps do cross-reference and bring citations based on the type of research that you're trying to do, right? This is AI agents accelerating research and the type of stuff that we do typically in the industry, right? So I'm super excited about a lot of these use cases. If you ask me what our get started with, a lot of our customers are getting started with AI agents from a context of assist and accelerate, and then augment is coming up. Specifically from a clinical context, these type of AI agents then needed to go through a lot of approvals, and the question of safety, security, efficacy, right? All of that plays a key role.
You're right, absolutely right, Murali. I think we think very similarly in that area, as in when you think about it from a workflow perspective and the lens of the workflow, you realize that the traditional human-centric workflows are essentially have a cycle, right? You've got clinicians or nurse practitioners or staff essentially spending a significant amount of time reviewing information, looking up data, opening systems, or checking status. And then they move into more of a trying to understand and interpret what that data is telling them, analyzing that, understanding it, and then using that insight to then drive and make a decision. And then essentially the decision then translates into an action. And the way we think about AI is very significant, very similarly as you talked about assisting and augmenting, essentially is where, from a workflow-driven perspective, where AI agents can play a role. We think of them as reducing the need to actually spend a lot of time looking up that data, opening up those systems, doing the swivel chair. They can be really good at aggregating information, synthesizing it, and understanding the context behind that information. And then essentially they can be very good at inferring and detecting. That's the augmenting part, where they're essentially summarizing the trends or flagging anomalies or identifying urgency. And then you can see essentially a human and agent collaboration when it comes to making decisions, because the agent can assist in terms of recommendations that are fact-based and can be presented and can just reduce the time it takes to do that. And we've seen many use cases like that, where things like just the amount of time it takes for a care manager to prepare themselves for a conversation, to prepare themselves for a needs assessment, let's say, with a member or a patient. The preparation time there is significant. Sometimes it's 75 minutes to 120 minutes, because they're spending a lot of that time trying to get that data figured out, trying to understand what the data is telling them, getting them situated in that sort of contextual understanding of what the data is telling them. And the agent can bypass a lot of that. It can help them actually get to that point pretty quickly. So.
Well, and I think that's a lot of the exciting potential here, especially with, if you think about the large volume of data that a healthcare organization has and generates, right? I think I saw a statistic the other day, and Murali, you're probably much closer to this because this is your space with data, but the amount of data in the world that healthcare generates as a percentage of the whole and how quickly that's going to multiply, right? It's just only going to become, and then you think, what's the interface to all of that data, right? How do you actually interact with it? I remember one of our early podcast episodes, Raheel, we did with someone, and they talked about, they were in data team at a healthcare system, talking about how much of a backlog they had just for report requests,
Yeah,
right? People just want reports.
that's
And
right.
and so now the whole approach changes dramatically. So let's use that as a way to bridge into the next question, Murali, which is, obviously you work for Snowflake. You've got a strong point of view, obviously, as an advocate for the company and what you're building. But what are you talking about in terms of why Snowflake's a great platform on which to build and deploy AI agents for healthcare?
To me, AI strategy begins with a data strategy, right? There is no AI strategy without a data strategy. And what that means is an organization should have a good handle on their data, and having that solid data foundation is so fundamental and an enabler for setting up a solid or a robust AI data strategy. So having that capability from Snowflake standpoint to bring disparate data together, semi-structured, unstructured data. You rightly spoke about the large amount of data that healthcare industry generates. Very interesting fact is 80% of that data is unstructured. So having ability to tap into that data and bring all of them together is super important. And Snowflake really excels well in terms of bringing all of those multimodal health data of patients together. So that's number one. And number two is, if you really look at the AI from a capability standpoint, the ease of use from a context of how you call AI services is super important. Why? Because we deal with an industry which is highly regulated. And what that means is, if you have to send the data to an AI being hosted somewhere else, then you have to go through the whole security review and motion of what does it mean to send the data to the AI and then get the results or responses back, right? So the mantra from Snowflake perspective is we bring AI to the data. The AI that runs within Snowflake is within the boundaries of a customer's data environment, and thereby we are bringing AI to the data, not taking data to the AI. I think that's definitely number two. And number three is the simplicity and ease of use. When I say simplicity and ease of use, do we have to write a blocks of code to even make that calls and orchestrate, or are we providing a simple abstracted SQL functions and easy way to call APIs, easy way to call and set up, let's say, a RAG system, right? From a vector embedding and retrieval, data context retrieval capability perspective, having that rounded abstracted capabilities is number three. And then number four, obviously, is the stack of AI features that are needed, right? Today, we have AI that is capable of doing document OCR. We have AI having capability to parse certain contents. And then there are capabilities associated with the RAG, the vector embeddings, and so on and so forth. So having that stack of capabilities from an AI standpoint is super critical to make sure that when we talk about AI agents, that leverages multiple steps from an AI capability standpoint and bring them together as a tool to truly accomplish a task. I think that capability is super critical. So Snowflake is definitely built on robust set of AI stacks features that sits on top of the data our customers have. And many of our customers feel that as the biggest value proposition on why they want to do a lot more with the AI on Snowflake.
I have to imagine that that all translates into speed, right? And I know, Raheel, that's a lot of the focus in the work that we're doing with customers, is trying to help them get to a proof of concept quickly so that they can start to see how AI will benefit their organization. So what's your take on the speed element of what Murali described and how these pieces come together in one platform?
I think Snowflake's governed data layer, like with tools like Cortex AI and Snowpark, gives organizations like Productive Edge who are building agents, who are in the thick of that, a huge advantage. First of all, it doesn't just allow us to build agents faster, but allows us to make sure they're compliant as well. And we're moving fast because the data, the logic, and the AI models live in one ecosystem. And that just means less integration risk, shorter time to value, and easier monitoring. We've noted, of course, that our clients are not interested in another AI science project, right? They want real solutions in production, and Snowflake and Snowflake's platform makes that possible.
That's good. And I think it's a key piece that I think another statistic I saw recently, about 70% of AI pilots never make it to production, right? So, which is okay but sometimes, right? There's a certain amount of this stuff. That's why we pilot and that's why we test to run these ideas through before, especially for, as Murali, you said, this is a highly regulated industry. You've obviously got a workforce that's already taxed significantly with the workload that's on them, and you never can get to enough patients or members to serve them. So we want to be thoughtful about the things we put in front of them. So I think when you're speaking with customers, Murali, what are you talking to leaders about in terms of advice, some maybe challenges they might face or early pitfalls, things to watch out for to try to help them with the learning curve here?
One of the important things I tell our customers is AI is not a technology first conversation. It is a business use case first conversation. We have to first understand what is the business function or a business workflow. And Raheel talked about beautifully about some of these workflows from a healthcare context. What workflow would we like to transform from a business standpoint? Then ask a question out, what is our AI infusion opportunities in that workflow? I think that's the most important question that we should ask before even thinking about, hey, what can we do about right from an AI perspective. I think that, so it starts with the business use case first, understanding and assessment. And number two is when we look at this from a technology perspective, and AI is beyond experimentation today, right? And so what that means is you need to have right data in a right place, and then you should have a stack of AI features like I spoke about. So then it is a matter of defining that AI framework, right? To me, it kind of boils down to a set of design patterns. Hey, here is my design pattern to extract contents from, let's say, an unstructured medical transcripts or HR summary reports or benefit summary reports, right? Here is my design pattern to call a RAG system, right? What we used to call from a Snowflake perspective, Cortex search is that RAG in a semantic database as well as the retriever. The important aspect here is that look at it from a design pattern and build that framework. When you build that framework, then it is much easy when you bring that AI agent, it is much easy to say, hey, here are the design patterns that I'm going to be following. And here is how I'm going to be tapping into those capabilities. And then more importantly, how am I going to be integrating AI into the workflows, right? Is this AI creating insights in the backend, which is essentially AI being run as an AI pipeline as part of the data engineering pipelines alone? Or are we taking this AI and calling it and integrating from a workflow perspective? Are we then making an API call from the workflow to the AI, right? So these are some of the design patterns that need to be formed from an AI framework perspective. And then the last and the most important one is how do you assess the efficacy of the model from a use case perspective, and assessing the AI technology and framework from a context of security, governance. To me, observability is super important. We need to know if the model is hallucinating, we have to detect that and put controls in place to raise a red flag and make sure that those insights are not getting integrated or there is a way to address any gaps from that, right? So AI observability is another key thing, right? So if you ask me to characterize business use case, it's how you bring the technology together from a framework perspective, and then observability, security, guardrails, right? From an AI perspective, those are the three.
Mike, I and Murali totally agree, right? As you said, AI is no longer experimental; it's actually operational. And however, to really echo what you're saying, while AI is expanding in ambition, most healthcare organizations still lack the infrastructure to govern it effectively. And that's where we see challenges. So we ask, and the board subcommittees are asking, can we defend these systems if challenged and audited? CFOs are wondering, where is the ROI and how do we prove it? Compliance and legal leaders are asking, are we ready for CPPA in the California specific law, or the CMS's AI addendum, or HIPAA AI guidance? And then the clinical and operations teams are asking, how can we move fast? We have efficiencies to solve for. And I think that's where the model you just mentioned needs to come in. So the ability for organizations to arm teams with a governable infrastructure that is easy and quick versus a long sort of bureaucratic process is going to be key, because AI solutions are, and innovation is just moving too rapidly. So you think about a traditional and classic ROI, the way to think about ROI for an agentic AI or an AI type use case is that it has to be able to articulate value, cost savings, or experience improvement, or some clinical efficiency. But it should also be able to highlight its ability to be feasible and being able to get it out to market. And then there's two other dimensions. One is a risk profile. What is the risk profile for that particular use case in terms of data exposure or privacy and security, as you said? And then based on that risk profile, what are the governance controls that we need to put in place and enable the teams with? Unless you think about that whole life cycle in a manner that really brings those four pieces together, you're kind of leaving one thing essentially incomplete. And that's where I think the challenge is. Essentially, it's operationalizing governance into the workflows along and into these use cases and applications at the time of building them.
No pressure at all on healthcare leaders, right, to figure out all that stuff. But clearly, as you say, these are things that are no longer just ideas or concepts, they are reality. And many brave organizations are moving forward with the assistance of technology partners, clearly. But thinking about the future, maybe we'll, as our final question, look into the crystal ball a little bit and thinking even the next 12 to 18 months. We've seen a lot as we sit here recording this almost halfway through 2025 about predictions for what AI is going to look like in 2027. Murali, what are you thinking about as you think to the future in the next 12 to 18 months of where this is going to go? And maybe Snowflake will be a part of that with healthcare organizations, or just what do you think the potential is of the next 12 to 18 months and what might happen?
I'll speak generically from a context of what I think AI as an industry is going to head without specific vendors or a platform specific information. The way I feel it's going to, I think two key things are going to happen. One, we are going to see AI getting more and more embedded and be a natural part of most of what we do across industries, not just within healthcare. And what that means is this technology is going to be prevalent across the edge, across enterprise applications, and so on and so forth. The second important aspect is in order to achieve such scale, I think one of the interesting capabilities that's coming up is the model context protocol. The concept of MCP as a server that provides ability to access enterprise information and information that are specialized, that is needed for AI agents to effectively get embedded into different business workflows, in my opinion, is going to be a game changer to make that happen, right? So those are two things which I think is going to happen. But this industry is fast evolving. The very ground we stand is changing at a rapid pace. So we're going to wait and see how that pans out. But then to me, it's an exciting time. It's like Christmas every day. We have new technology coming up every single day. So the opportunities are endless.
I'm with you. CP is really important because, as you said, access to that specialized data, but not just data. I think it's also investments that healthcare organizations have already made in tools that are specific to a certain function. So whether it might be, let's say, a risk stratification algorithm that you already have, the agent can essentially tap into that. There's reusability of investments you've already made. And so MCP is really good at that and can help you really tap into that. These point solutions that seemingly today feel like they're siloed, but with MCP can connect together and become part of a very intelligent agent that can do some very interesting things. That's one element. And the second element is the agent-to-agent collaboration. So rather than thinking of one big, large model, you can see small, purposeful agents working across intake or help assisting in decisioning or inferring and understanding or things like documentation. So that's going to unlock scalability. And when you pair it with the right governance scaffolding, it becomes auditable and measurable transformation. And that's kind of, I think, where the next phase is going to be. It's about operationalizing that at scale and in a way that allows us to ensure that AI is safe, explainable, and financially justified.
And maybe in that time, we'll somehow reach the dream of an efficient healthcare system that provides high quality care to all and people get the outcomes that they deserve and lead healthy lives, right?
That's what we all
That's the eye on the prize, right? Trying to remember it's a very human-centered business, obviously, in healthcare and has great potential. So it's been a great discussion today. So thank you both for joining. Thank you, Raheel. Thank you, Murali. It's been great to hear from you and get your insights about the future of AI agents in healthcare. So thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Murali. Thanks
for having me. It was a great discussion.
And we will see you next time on the Health Tech Edge. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.